We're here this morning with candidate Andrew Graves, who is running for the 119th District Attorney's Office. And we appreciate so much you being here with us this morning. The panel's in place. They've got questions to ask you, and for the sake of time, we're going to get started. Lillian, would you lead off?
Yes. What experience do you bring to the table for the position that you seek?
The experience that I bring to the table for this position is it's wide, it's varied, and it's experience that only I can bring to this position when we talk about the candidates who are running. I have experience having been an assistant district attorney in Fort Worth, Texas, so I know what it's like to prosecute a case. I've been back here in this community since 2005, working in private practice, so I had experience handling a variety of other cases. I've handled cases, I know how to prosecute, I know how to defend a case. That gives you an advantage in court. I also know what it's like to handle cases that are in court for family law, wills, estates, probates, CPS cases representing children. I have that experience. That experience is crucial on giving you the proper perspective and the ability to handle cases in court. I have not just been an assistant, I've done more. Furthermore, experience that I have, of course, I know how to run a business. This is a large business that you're running. And I also have experience as a leader in this community for well over a decade. And I'll get to touch on those things in a few minutes as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Andrew, this has come up, in Colorado. It's kind of been a hot button issue lately. So, decriminalizing the possession and use of marijuana would greatly reduce the DA's workload. Given that prosecution hasn't seemed to deter its use, would you favor decriminalizing it in Tom Green County? Why or why not?
That is a tough question. And I'll tell you, first off, when we talk about the district attorney's office handles felonies. And in order to get to a felony level on a possession of marijuana case, you're talking about a large amount, over 4 ounces. So really, most of the decriminalization of marijuana situations in municipalities that you're seeing or in certain states, those are really small amounts that would normally be a misdemeanor. But to answer your question, am I in favor of it? I have seen throughout my years of experience as an attorney on both sides. I have seen, and again I see it with handling CPS cases as well, I have seen the effect that drugs have upon people, upon our youth. And yes, I do believe it is a gateway. I do believe that people struggle with drug abuse, and many times that's where they start. Has it been successful to prosecute them? I think the jury's out on that. I think at times it's successful, I think at other times it's not. But whether or not decriminalizing it in Tom Green County would assist us, I don't know if it actually would.
One of the purposes of criminal punishment is deterrence. Is there any evidence that plea bargaining deters future offenses?
Is there any evidence of that? I don't know if I could point to specific evidence of it. I could tell you that in my experience of having practiced law for 15 years, again, handling cases on all types in the criminal realm, I would say that at times, yes, it can. There are times that it does deter people. Probation is not necessarily an easy fix for people. There are some times where people having to be under the thumb of a probation officer and having to be accountable and having to watch all their steps, watch their P's and Q's, many times that is punishment to them, and it does deter some people from committing further crimes. I will tell you this, there is no fix for all types of crime. The unfortunate, sad thing is we will never be able to fully deter people from committing crimes. It's been around since the beginning of time. Our best thing is to try to deter the ones we can, rehabilitate the ones we can. And occasionally, sometimes you got to make some noise when you're doing that.
One way of reducing workload on the DA and the courts is to plea bargain. What criteria do you or would you use in deciding to plea bargain rather them to prosecute.
Well, and I would respectfully say that plea bargaining is not a decision to not prosecute. The decision to prosecute is when you take a case to grand jury and you indict that case and you get it in the court system. Now, the decision to plea bargain versus taking it to trial, I think you look at factors such as the severity of the case. Of course, one of the other things you must look at is the strength of the case. And that begins at grand jury. When you're vetting the case and you are looking at a case and investigating the case, you must look at all the factors that you think could go forward that could come up at trial down the road. I learned that when I was in the DA's office in Fort Worth. That's what they taught us, is you start at the grand jury. You don't just wholesale indict things and then plead them down. You get your cases as ready as you can for trial once you're in grand jury. And you go handle it that way. And we've had some recent issues locally with cases that went right up close to a trial date and then they had to be knocked down for a variety of reasons. Of course, I was not privy to the inner workings of any of those cases, but I can tell you that I think some of those problems could be alleviated if they are properly vetted at grand jury.
All right. Did your law study stress precedent over constitutional intent? Did you study the Constitution, and is it your belief that it is a living document?
I did study the Constitution. Of course, in law school, we had to take a class called Constitutional Law. It's one of my favorite classes. Professor Eisinger at Texas Tech, very nice man, a wonderful scholar, great teacher. I believe that the Constitution is the governing document of our country, and I believe that we should adhere to our Constitution. Now, it can change. There are obviously amendments happen, and they have happened over the years in the history of our country, because things are different today than they were in 1776 or after that when we ratified the Constitution. However, I do think that as a nation we need to grow. Absolutely. We cannot remain static at all times, but we do need to grow, and we do need to adhere to the tenets that were set up by our founding fathers.
Well, let's kind of follow up on ours, Andrew. In your view, under the federal system chosen by the framers and agreed to by the states, who actually should have the most influence on law, the federal judiciary or the state judiciary?
My personal belief, you're asking me as a citizen, my personal belief is I believe in more state control. That is my personal belief. I come from a family of educators. My daddy was a school superintendent here for many years. He was school superintendent at Paint Rock after he left here. He was a school superintendent in Winters when I was born. So in all three of these counties in this district, I have a parent who was a public servant. And learning from watching my father, my mother who was a school teacher, and most of my family who were educators, I've seen the things that can happen with the overreaching of the federal government. I do not think that you can effectively govern on a local level from several thousand miles away. I do not think that is effective. And we're seeing some problems with that these days. I think there are certain things that the federal government needs to address. Certainly our defense. I believe strongly in having a national defense, strong defense. But certain things such as some of our educational decisions, of course our healthcare issues. I mean, every state has a different healthcare issue. Texas has different issues than Massachusetts. Massachusetts isn't on the border of another country where people are coming in that need healthcare. And we are. Our situation is different. I don't know if you can effectively govern that from Washington, D.C.
It's being said our country is in a spiritual identity crisis from the invasion of Islam infiltrating our core belief systems and foundational principles that are based upon God, His Word, and our Constitution. Our president proclaims he's a Christian leader, but his fruit reveals he isn't seeking the God our country was founded upon. And the consequences we face now is that our nation stands to lose its Christian identity. The spiritual relationships of our elected leaders heavily affect our nation and which direction our nation will turn. So when it's time to make a decision to prosecute an individual, how would you determine the amount of weight of punishment to be used to bring about God's righteousness based upon God's law found in the Bible and the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure?
That's a long question. I would tell you that your job as a prosecutor, you do need to take in all of your experiences, all of your beliefs into, that needs to all be in consideration. I will tell you that looking at how hard to punish someone, many times, unless you're in a plea bargaining situation, that's up to a judge or a jury. And that's who makes the decision. And there are times, as a Christian, that we need to take certain mitigating factors into consideration. I have seen that on both sides of the ledger. But I will tell you that I would take every single bit of my experience and I would put that into effect in deciding how to handle a case. And that does include having a strong Christian faith.
What we see today is that our courts are overwhelmed, costs are overwhelming, and our prisons are overrun. What do we do now?
Well, I guess that line in the, what was that line in the Shawshank Redemption where he says there's only a few ways that they think that you can fix crime is about building more prisons and more guards and more things like that. And they are overcrowded. People are overworked. We have more crime than we need. Sadly enough, I think that's a problem that we've had forever. We would hope that we would have a very low crime rate in every single town in the United States. Again, like we talked about earlier, I don't know if you'll ever be able to completely eliminate people committing crimes. You just can't do it. How do you fix that? We can't fix it. How do we alleviate it? I think there are times when I visited with the folks at the Tea Party, a question like this arose. And I do believe that it begins at home. It begins when people are young. And the sad fact is of course, it starts with home. It starts with a mom and a dad. And it starts with good schools and a good church. That's where it starts. And you hope and you try to help people from that area first and hope that it takes and that it sticks. As far as once they get into the system where we're dealing with somebody in a felony situation, I would tell you there are times where you hope that you can rehabilitate someone, whether it is with supervision or programs and things that are available in our prison system. At the end of the day, you hope people are deterred. Of course, we could always use more prisons, we could always use more probation officers, we could always use more prosecutors, we could use more judges, more jails. But at the end of the day, you hope that the individual has the accountability to do the right thing.
Andrew, we'd like to invite you now to make a closing statement if you'd like.
My name is Andrew Graves, and I'm here asking for your vote for 119th District Attorney in the March 1st primary. This is an important election, and it's not an important election simply because we're electing the people selecting the people who will be our nominees for the Republican presidential nomination. We are not just selecting people who are going to Washington. The crucial decision that you have to make is this is the time when you are picking your local leaders. That is the most important decision that you can make as a voter, because these are the people who prosecute your crimes, make decisions on serious cases, people who set your water bills, all of those types of things. This is crucial. It is crucial to make the right decision. And what I'm asking for your vote is similar to the things that we talked about earlier. I'm from here. This is my home. I grew up here. My family is full of educators from this area. My father was a school superintendent here for many, many years, Bill Graves. I was in the district attorney's office in Fort Worth, Texas. But in 2005, after being a misdemeanor prosecutor and being a felony prosecutor, I decided to come back here so that I can make our home a better place. And since then, I've been working tirelessly to make that dream come true. I've been in private practice. I know what it's like to prosecute a case. I know what it's like to defend a case, and that gives you an advantage in court. I know what it's like to handle a wide variety of cases throughout our court system, and that is experience only I can bring as one of the two candidates for district attorney. I also know what it's like to run a business. And if you look at the district attorney's office, it is essentially a large business. I know what it's like to do budgets, to make payroll, to keep the lights on. I know what it's like to be the person in charge of earning the money to get that done. I know what it's like to create paychecks, not just to collect them. And that's a very important experience. And third, I think the most important thing is this job in this position as the district attorney is about leadership. Being the district attorney is not simply about being an assistant. This job is about being a leader, and about being a business person, and about having wide experience. I have experience as a leader in this community. I have been back here for over a decade, working tirelessly to make our home a better place. I have served previously on the board of directors for Angelo Civic Theater, Downtown San Angelo, the San Angelo Performing Arts Coalition, Fort Concho. I was president of the local Young Lawyers Association, and 2 years ago I was president of our local bar association. I have been doing those things not in anticipation of this election. I have been doing those things because they are right, and because they are good, and because they need to happen for our community. I currently serve on the board of directors for the San Angelo Rotary Club, the San Angelo Schools Foundation, and I'm on the United Way Community Investment Council, and I also still serve on the San Angelo Performing Arts Coalition, which is building you a brand new performing arts center downtown, mostly with private money. That's leadership. In 2008, I participated and graduated from Leadership San Angelo, as well as in 2013, I was honored to be a member of the top 20 professionals in San Angelo under the age of 40. And I'll also serve on the Texas Bar Foundation, which is given to a very select few attorneys throughout the entire state of Texas. Leadership is important, and the most important trait of a good leader is what are you doing when nobody is watching. Those are the things that I've been doing for our community. Those are the things I will continue to do for our community. But those are crucial things in the position of 119th District Attorney. And that's why I, Andrew Graves, am asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.